and also to spread awareness of the culture, human rights, a contribution to realizing the hopes and aspirations of the Egyptian people. As President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi launched on Saturday the National Strategy for Human Rights to develop a comprehensive approach to human rights as an integral part of implementing the country's national development projects. The President gave his directives, 7 directives that we are going to know about in the following report.
President Fattah al-Sisi, during his speech at the launch of the first National Strategy for Human Rights, directed the Permanent Committee for Human Rights to continue implementing the mandates entrusted to it and instructed the government to take all steps that would enhance this, foremost of which are the following: calling on all political entities and civil society organizations to pay attention to enriching the Egyptian political experience. First, continuing efforts to integrate human rights goals and principles into the state's public policies and within the framework of implementing the Sustainable Development Strategy Egypt's Vision 2030. Second, inviting political entities and civil society organizations to take an interest in enriching the Egyptian political experience and building trained cadres. Third, ensuring the equitable distribution of the fruits of development. Fourth, strengthening communication with various civil society institutions to provide them with a suitable environment to work as a key partner for development. Fifth, in implementing the integrated vision of administrative reform, care is needed to build an efficient and effective administrative apparatus. Sixth, developing a system for receiving and following up complaints in the field of human rights to respond quickly. Seventh, intensifying national efforts to build capacities and training in the field of human rights. The United Nations Development Programme congratulates Egypt on the issuance of the Human Rights Strategy. On its official account on the social networking site Twitter, the United Nations Development Programme congratulated Egypt for launching the Human Rights Strategy announced by President Fattah al-Sisi on Saturday in the new administrative capital.
Well, to shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to have this phone with Ambassador Wafaa Basim, member of the United Nations Commission on Human Rights in the political and civil sector. Good afternoon, Your Excellency, Ambassador Basim.
Good afternoon.
I really had the pleasure and the honor to have this phone with you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for calling me to raise this very important issue, on which I congratulate the Egyptian state, the Egyptian people, for having this first of kind of strategies, national strategies on human rights.
Yes, Ambassador Basim, how do you see the echo or the reactions that we are now witnessing after President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi launched the National Strategy for Human Rights, as the President of the United Nations Human Rights Council, Nazhat Shamim Khan, praised Egypt's launching this strategy of the first National Strategy for Human Rights?
Well, it was a very important intervention by the President of the Council, because she represents the membership of states who are presently members in the Council, who have been elected to become members in the Council, as well as other states who are for the time being observers, but will come later to become members, because it's a sort of rotation plus elections. The fact that the President of the Council on Human Rights, who is going to, let's say, monitor, follow the implementation of the strategy, of the Egyptian strategy, as well as the respect and implementation of Egypt of other instruments of human rights is very important.
Yes.
He has taken stock of the important aspects of this strategy. She has congratulated the Egyptian state on this very important initiative that was declared by President Sisi a few months ago in France, and that was launched under his high patronage yesterday, as you have seen it in the new Egyptian capital.
Yes. Yes.
Please go ahead.
Please go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, not
Please.
at all. So now we have a commitment, an Egyptian commitment at the higher level of the state, the president of the state, the founding of a special mechanism, which is the highest commission of human rights, depending directly or reporting directly to the Prime Minister, plus, of course, the Egyptian Council on Human Rights, and the Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Justice, which means the governmental part of it are there. So we have, and of course we will not forget the civil society, to which the President, again, at the end of his speech yesterday, has dedicated the year 2022 for their activity. So what we have now is a strategy. What we have now is the fact that Egypt has been a founding member and a founding signatory of the most important international legal instruments on human rights, which is the Charter of the UN, the two covenants on civil and political rights, to which I'm honored to be a member on behalf of Egypt, and of course the covenant on social, economic, cultural rights, which becomes a priority, or which is a priority for Egypt and for the Egyptian state, to ensure for the Egyptian people so they can go ahead in their way to democracy.
Yes, so Your Excellency, Ambassador Basim, can we consider the launching of the National Strategy for Human Rights a national project that would suit the new republic?
Of course. Don't forget that in the Constitution, which is still the main document or the main instrument of the state,
yes,
and that is there to stay, whether it's the First Republic, which is ending, or the new republic, which is starting now. And we can see, as the President said, that the foundation was laid after 2011, though I would say it has been laid as from 2014. Yes. This new republic, based on the Constitution, has paved the way for making this strategy, which adopted a partnership approach between the government, the different mechanisms and institutions, whether academic or governmental, the civil society, and a deep dialogue that has taken place between the state, the government, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Justice, and finally the Council on Human Rights, the Council on Women, the Council on Children and Motherhood, and finally the Council on People with Special Needs.
Yes.
All these, who are the main factions of the society, has been party in building up this strategy, discussing it, commenting it, amending it until it came in the 78 pages that were launched yesterday.
Yes. So, Your Excellency, Ambassador Basim, during his speech yesterday, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said or gave a background about Egypt's history in the human rights field. The President noted that Egypt was one of the founding countries that contributed to the drafting of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the year 1948. How do you see this? Yes, please.
You wanted to ask a question. How do I see what?
How do you see this, the President giving this background and linking the past with the present of what happened yesterday of launching this strategy?
The President wanted clearly to give a message,
yes,
and a precise message, not only to the Egyptians, but to the whole world, that this strategy comes in line with the historical, legal commitments and obligations of Egypt towards the international community. Whether, as I told you, the Charter of the UN, the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, which is the main body of human rights in the world, then the two covenants that do represent the two wings that do take this declaration up to the sky and the movement, and the multiple treaties and agreements on different aspects of human rights.
yes.
The President wanted to say, we are not new to the fight. We are there. And we made this strategy to go on or to be in harmony with our international commitments, but taking into account two things. The Egyptian case with its cultural, historical, geographical, societal background, and also the challenges that are facing the Egyptian people, and that at a certain point in 2011, we're about to end this very great state and to end with it all the aspirations of achieving a democracy respecting the human rights.
Yes, I thank you very much for your valuable information. Ambassador Wafaa Basim, member of the UN Commission of Human Rights in Political and Civil Sector. Thank you very much for joining us. I really had the pleasure and was so proud to have this phono with you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a short break and I'm going to be back with you.